Now what we'll do is we'll create the functionality of this delete button. What if we want to delete a particular record from this inventory details table? For that, we'll have to write what action we want to perform on this delete button. It has to take the selected record and delete it from the table. So let's get to the flow of creating the delete functionality. We'll go to the database, and over here we'll be writing the stored procedure first. We are following the same approach that we did for the get flow. It is going to be delete inventory details, and over here if we just check that in the table, inventory table, what key should we take to delete the record? Product ID would be the appropriate candidate to delete the record from this particular table that we are sending from the front end to back end. What we'll do over here is just take this query, and it's not going to be a select query, it's going to be a delete query. We want to delete the record from inventory table where product ID. This is going to be a filter, so we should define the filter as well. The stored procedure is going to accept a parameter product ID of data type int, and wherever the SQL is able to find a record according to this filter where product ID is equal to @product ID that is being passed to the stored procedure, that record should be deleted. So this is the stored procedure that we are creating for deleting the record. Let me just execute this. It says commands completed successfully. That means that the stored procedure is created over here. If I just refresh it, you will be able to see a third stored procedure for deleting the inventory details. So now we'll use this stored procedure in our dotnetcore web API. I'll just stop the execution and take the help of the existing method to create a new method now. Added an extra curly braces. Now this is going to be a HTTP delete method, and we don't want to get inventory details, we are simply trying to delete them. The stored procedure name we'll be copying from here, and we want to pass the parameter now to this stored procedure. So we'll just remove all of this reading code that we earlier had for get inventory details. We don't want to send any response, just send the OK code as of now, and the command would be execute non-query because we are not trying to read any data. But before executing the command, we have to pass the parameters. It's going to be the similar approach that we had followed while saving the data. The name is going to be @product ID. This is the exact name that the SP is taking as a parameter. And what should we pass over here? This particular web API method would be accepting a product ID. So this is what will be passed to the stored procedure as well. We'll just save the changes, and now I'll execute the solution. So closing the dialog box, and we have to see if our new web API method is added or not while the solution is running. So over here it is added. This is a delete API that we have created, and we can try it out also. We have to pass the product ID over here. So if we just check what data is existing currently in the table, that we also can see over here, that these are the records in the table, right? So we want to delete, let's say, this second one. We can create it also from the front end, so no problem as such. I'll just pass this particular value and click on execute. So over here we are getting a code 200. That means the API is successfully executed. And if we see now in the table, so we are able to see that the second record is deleted. So that means that our API is working perfectly. And now what we have to do is just add the flow from the front end to the .NET Core Web API so that we are able to delete the record from this particular page. If I just refresh this now, it should have only one record. So yes, it is having one record only. And what we'll do is just add some value over here so that we are able to see multiple records instead of only one. So let me just click on submit. It says form submitted successfully. I click on OK and check the table if the data is inserted or not. So yes, we are able to see the record inserted over here. And what you will be able to see is that the ID column is having value 3. The second row was deleted, right? And after that, as we have set it as an identity column, the next row that would be inserted would take the sequential key only. So the identity would just increment it by 1 and set it to 3. It will not be 2. So that is one thing I hope you all are aware about for the identity columns when they are set in the SQL. And over here, we are able to see that we have successfully inserted the record. But what is not happening is that this table is not getting refreshed. So this is a very good point that we have found while inserting the record again in the table, that the table is not refreshing on the go when we are clicking on submit. For that, what we need to do is, this is the ngOnInit function, right? This is getting the records from the table. This is the second flow that we had created. Now, when I submit the record in the table from the screen, what I want is the table should also get refreshed on the go. So for that, we'll take this method, and once the post is completed, once we have the alert, we also want to refresh the page so that any new data that is inserted in the table, it should reflect on the screen as well. So now if we go over here and I just add some random values again, I click on submit, okay, and you see that the table is getting refreshed now because we have called the ngOnInit function, and as it is only fetching the records as of now, we were able to call it successfully. Otherwise, we should have called another function which was just getting the details. So what we can do over here is, for the reusability approach, we'll just add another function, inventory details, and this function will define it over here. Because ngOnInit was only calling this code, that is why we could easily use it in the on submit functionality as well. But if you have more code in the ngOnInit, if there are some more functionalities that you are performing over here, then it is a better approach to have a separate function for getting the inventory details that you could use in ngOnInit, and then this function can be called on submit as well over here. So now I'll just save the changes over here and we'll go to the screen, make some changes, that is add a new record and click on submit. So everything seems to be perfectly working fine over here. We are able to get the records while we are submitting. We are able to get the latest table details as well. After this, now what we have to do is add the delete flow. For that, what we'll be doing over here, so this is an interesting point now. We have already included Bootstrap in our application. And now we'll be using ng Bootstrap for creating a dialog box that would be displayed once the user clicks on delete button.